Hi friends, it's Michelle here from happyhealthyher.com. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Today is, tonight I'm filming this on the night before my 48th birthday. And today I spent writing one of the longest blogs I've ever written. And it ended up being 8 life lessons that I've learned, particularly as being an empath, but I think these are lessons that are pertinent to all of us. And so I hope you all enjoy this and get something out of my own birthday reflections. Just a little bit of background on myself. I am sensitive. I consider myself to be an empath, and what that means is I'm especially sensitive to the energy in the room, the energy of other people's emotions and feelings. I can often take them on and feel them as if they are my own. That can sometimes mean that I attract in toxic and negative people who are actually actively looking to drain me. And other times it just means that I can be in a room full of people and be very drained just by the energy in the room. And what I've learned, especially this year and really throughout the pandemic, is that it doesn't have to be energy that's in the room. I've been actually very, very affected by the energies just collectively, and have found that I'm often fatigued and stressed and nervous, and it has nothing to do with what's happening in my life. So it's a very strange and interesting dynamic. And I hope to at some point do a little bit more of a lesson and a conversation about what it means to be an empath, because I think there's a lot of misunderstandings, but for me that is what it is. And so a lot of my life lessons came around that type of sensitivity that I bring to the table. So I've written a blog, as I said, and I will link that in the description on this video, so that you can follow along. There's going to be a lot more information probably than what I'm going to share just conversationally with you. But I'll get right into these 8 life lessons that I have uncovered that have been part of my journey and part of my life. And the first one is, you are lovable for no reason. I think this is so powerful and so important for many of us to remember. If you think about a baby, babies are born into this world and we love them automatically. We love them unconditionally. And this is how it should be. This is how it should remain through our adult lives. But unfortunately, conditions get placed, and we start to think we're not good enough, and we have to be achieving and being and doing. And really, you came from love. You will always be of love, and that is the core of who you are. So you need to remember that you are lovable just for your existence. This is one I struggle with, and probably the biggest one for a lot of empaths, actually. Lesson number 2 is, choose yourself, save yourself. Now, I pulled this from a Billy Porter video I saw a while back on BuzzFeed. I'm gonna link to the video in the blog, because he just has such a good delivery that I could not even possibly match. But his video was on 7 rules to live by, and his number 1 rule was to choose yourself, to save yourself, and to bet on yourself. And really, that's what it's all about. You're here to do your work. You're here to live your life purpose. You cannot always be focusing on everybody else. You have to be choosing your own needs. You have to be choosing your own well-being and safety, always. This, again, is really hard for people who are empathetic or are codependent. We actually tend to be wired in an outward manner where we're actually giving our energy away most of the time. And that feels normal to us. And so you have to make a really conscious, deliberate effort to conserve some of that energy for yourself, to make sure that you are protecting your own needs. Which actually leads right into lesson number 3, which is that everything is energy. This is something that Einstein famously said, and it's a major law of physics that applies to everything. We're very interesting in the United States around energy. We oftentimes disregard it as being scientific, that our bodies are energy fields. People think of things like Reiki and energy healing as woo-woo and untraditional or alternative medicine. But really, the way our energy systems flow is everything. It's totally crucial to how we live. It's vital to our health. And energy really is the currency that relates to our interpersonal connections. It relates to our creativity, our joy, the way we interact in the world. It's just far more important than I think we ever have given it credit for. And honestly, for me, the idea of energy being everything takes a lot of shame and guilt away from what is often pushed on people who have some codependent patterns, or people who are empaths who do tend to be overgiving or get drained. And the truth is, it's all energy. It's not like people like to blame, I think lately, victim blame codependent folks or anybody who's a little bit different. And the truth is, you're just wired that way. So let's just say, for instance, an empath, like I said, has this positive energy that is pushing outward. It's trying to give love, trying to be like the light in the room, so to speak. This is true for light workers too. They're just sort of exuding light and love, and it's just part of what an empath's makeup. A narcissist, on the other hand, tends to be negative, or a toxic vampire, if you want to just be more general. The labels don't really matter, but let's talk about a negative person though, someone who's taking. Energetically, they're sort of a negative. So you got the positive energy of someone who's showing up with a whole bunch of love, and you got the negative energy of someone who's just intending to take. And sadly, that forms a great magnetic attraction. And so while a lot of times empaths will beat themselves up, I know I have, for ending up in narcissistic relationships, a lot of why that even happens is strictly energy. It's strictly a magnetic attraction. It's strictly like what happens ends up feeling normal. It feels like lock and key. So I feel like once you understand though that everything is energy, you will get more conscious about conserving your energy, which is super crucial, and mindful of making sure that you're not overgiving of your energy, or otherwise you will end up depleted and drained. Lesson 4 is to always trust your intuition. So as far as what we just said about the energy exchange, intuition is our built-in energetic detection system. It is that sense that something is off. And you often get it so fast. And I think most of us are so hardwired to receive information and have the answers to what's going to keep us safe, what's going to be healthy for us. And yet we block it. We question it. We say, okay, no, I'm just being weird. I'm just being oversensitive. I'm just being too dramatic. That's not true. Your intuition, if your intuition is giving you a hit of energy and you're saying, ooh, something feels off, always honor it. Always. I can tell you I've started to do it more and more. And thankfully, I'm stunned at how often it is spot on accurate, even though it doesn't make sense. We're talking, my partner was mentioning a person, and I was like, I don't like them. And he was like, what are you talking about? I said, I don't know why, but I don't like this person. I feel like something's not right. And sure enough, something wasn't right. Like, they were not being totally honest. There was some sort of strange behavior going on. And so I just think it's super, super important. I talked about this a lot in my book, Online Dating for Sensitive Women, because when you're when you're in the dating world, there's all sorts of games, and there's sort of people being deceptive and manipulative, and you really, really have to trust your intuition. From the moment someone texts you or contacts you, you really have to get good on understanding, how does this person feel to me? How does this person's energy feel to me? And this is true for any situation, that you really need to gauge that intuition. So I'm not by any means an expert on intuition, but I just know for myself, I feel intuition in my belly, in my solar plexus, which is just below your belly button. Your solar plexus is one of your chakras. It's the third chakra, and it's associated with your power. Actually, it's considered to be your center of will. So it actually makes a lot of sense that you might feel impulses there if you are someone who's sensitive to energy or an empath. What I feel like is almost like someone's punched me in the stomach, or I might feel this like heavy, hollow, like my stomach has completely dropped out, like I've been on a roller coaster. It's really eerie, and quite scary, but the information of it is really fantastic because it gives me an alert that, hey, this is not a good environment, this is not a safe situation, or this is not something that you should just take without caution. So lots of times it's not like you have to just run fleeing from the room if you feel this way. You just need to be cautious. You just need to honor it. It's an alarm system, basically. Now the trick of this, though, is that you're not, I do think that not everybody experiences it the same way. So you may feel it in your heart. You may feel it in your head if you're a very intellectual type of person. You might be like overthinking. You might find yourself in an overthinking spiral going, why am I questioning this person? And chances are pretty good that there's a good reason, and you need to trust yourself and honor that. Something that I said when I turned 40 in a blog I wrote, 40 tips for 40 years, I actually was looking back at it, and I realized that I feel like I probably got it wrong. What I said is, there is no better compass than your own heart. That's lovely. It's beautiful. And I do actually think living in a heart-centered way is absolutely a fantastic way to live. However, it's not the safest way to live, because your heart will tell you, oh, be kind, be nice, be gentle. Don't put up boundaries. Don't try to question their behavior. They're just doing the best they can. And so your heart will actually sometimes tell you to override your gut instinct, your solid intuition. And I do not want that for you. So use your heart as like a guide for sure in like living a heart-centered, loving, compassionate life. But when it comes to keeping your boundaries up and keeping yourself safe, always go to your intuition. Something to note about that as well is that when you are around toxic people for a long time, it's almost like you've been poisoned. And your intuition, your senses, everything will potentially be off. So keep that in mind. You may have to remove yourself completely from a situation to really see it clearly. Because again, everything's energy. And if you're being affected by someone's energy in a negative manner, you might get overloaded, and your ability to sense and have effective intuition can be affected. So lesson number 5 is, this is a weird one, kind of controversial, I think, maybe, but it's that life is not fair. My mom's gonna love that I've come to this conclusion, because she used to tell me this all the time when I was a little kid. I'm an INFJ personality type. INFJs tend to be very, we're root for the underdog, we want things to be fair. We really do. Like, it's kind of, sometimes it can be kind of a Pollyanna energy, like, why can't everybody just get along? There's sort of this, I've had this belief that, geez, if I'm nice to people, if I'm good to people, if I do what I'm supposed to do, then things are all supposed to work out fine, and everything's supposed to be hunky-dory, and people are supposed to be nice in return, and it's life should have an ease to it. But the truth is, life is not fair, unfortunately. Now, I share in the blog a story about a particular healer who originally had me kind of swayed, and I was thinking, oh yeah, life is fair. We all have challenges. We all have ups and downs. And so, yeah, that's probably happens fairly. But I don't think that that is entirely true. And the reason why is because some of us live according to values and morals like the golden rule, where we're doing our best, we're showing up, we're being kind, we're trying to be fair. But a good portion of the population, like I said, the narcissistic types, the toxic energy vampires, the people who are just not very nice, period, are not trying to be fair. They're actually trying to take, sometimes lie, sometimes cheat or steal. And if you are in the mindset of, oh, everything's fair, everything's just going to work out fine, you are very likely to be taken advantage of. Believe me, I've been on the receiving end of this way more times than I'd like to admit, which is why I've finally come to this conclusion. I'm safer thinking that life is not fair than believing the reverse of that. And while I do value, by the way, having a positive mindset, I do think it's super, super valuable to see life with hope and optimism, and to not get clouded and think everything's just miserable. I certainly don't think that way at all. It's just more of taking a conservative approach and recognizing that people are not always out for good, and people do not have the heart that you have. If you are an empath, I can guarantee you the majority of folks do not have a heart or the kinds of sensitivity that you have, and so they are not playing by the same rules at all. So you just need to know that and protect yourself. Lesson number 6 is question everything. So that last lesson with life being fair or not being fair, it took me a while to get to that place. And how I got there was because I started to question my beliefs. And I also started to question some of the people I was getting my beliefs from, including that Matt, the person I had just referenced, who turned out to be a total hypocrite. So he's spouting off all this live with kindness, be fair, do good, and he actually behaved in a way that was totally contrary to that and super shocking. And so it really gave me pause. And I think this should always be the case. When you're taking advice from someone, you need to be sure that they are really someone you respect and trust and admire, and that they are walking in their truth. If people are they're telling you things and they're not actually doing it themselves, that is some real suspicious way of living your life, right? So I think that that's so important. So one of the questions around questioning everything is to say, who benefits from me having this belief? Now, this is big because we have been told so many things from a political perspective, from a religious perspective, and many of those things were primarily done to manipulate us. And this is a harsh truth, but let's be honest, I think most people can realize that this is in fact a truth, that lots of times people are manipulating us so that we'll be submissive, so that we'll just listen to what they say. I had someone years ago who kept preaching, you need to be of service, you need to be of service, you have to just dedicate your time and your energy to other people. Well, this person was trying to get people to work for them, and they paid absolutely obscenely low, and they were a millionaire, by the way. And so they're saying, be of service, be kind, you have to give, you have to be generous. And then they're basically living contrary to that. I'm not saying you can't have money, but if you have money, share the wealth. You should not be expecting people to work for minimum wage or low wages when you're expecting a lot from them. And this was the case. So this was something that really gave me pause. You have to understand, if what someone is telling you is actually to manipulate you, you need to be aware of that. You need to be very conscious of your own needs. Again, as we've talked to you through some of the other lessons, I don't want you to see you to get manipulated the way I have in my life. And so it's very important to question, always. So lesson 7 is you can and you must leave. What does that mean? That means you always have an opportunity to walk away from something. You always have the opportunity to start brand new. It doesn't matter if it's a job, a relationship, if you're married, if you're in a family. It doesn't matter what the situation is. You do not have to be trapped or tied to anything or anyone. I mean, the idea of that, when I even just think of it now, because I live my life now with complete freedom, and I do not have people who I have in my life who I don't want to have in my life. Whereas for a long time, that wasn't the case. For a very long time, I had people who were really cruel to me, and I had to spend time with them, and it was so weird. It was like, why would you choose to live your life this way? And for me, one of the beliefs I had as a kid, I was told, you don't quit. Quitting is wrong. Quitting lacks integrity. It means that you're giving up. It's just, it was framed in a way that it was just not well received. And so because of that, even when I would stick it out in a job or in a relationship or in something that was draining me terribly, and I was putting in all this effort and I was not getting anything back, when I ultimately left the situation, I'd be plagued by guilt and shame because I thought, I'm terrible for quitting, I'm terrible for leaving. And I think that this one is a really big challenge for anybody who's empathetic at all. Anybody who's kind or empathetic, because you don't want to disappoint people. You don't want to leave people. You don't want to make people sad. I mean, it's just this whole energy around you want to have peace. You want to bring joy and kindness to other people. You don't want to be hurting them. So even if someone's hurting you, it's typically not someone who's an empathetic person's mode of operation to go around leaving people or harming people or theoretically harming people intentionally. There's definitely never an intention around that. But what I had to learn really the hard way over and over and over again is that leaving sometimes is the lesson that the toxic person who has been abusing you or manipulating you or using your kindness needs to learn. And this could be a system or it could be people. So like, say you leave a job, those people at that job now have to figure out, hey, we got to make sure that doesn't happen the next time, because now we don't have that our needs met, and we have to change systems, change the way we're operating, do something differently. I mean, the same is true for anyone who, a friend, another connection who's been really not kind to you or has been doing things that have not been supportive in terms of a relationship. They need to understand that there's consequences. We're all adults and there's consequences to behavior. And sometimes the most important consequence is having someone experience the loss of someone leaving. So once I kind of framed that and got that into my head, it's become a lot healthier for me. And I realize it's a lot less scary and difficult way to live life is to believe that you are always free to walk away. Something that I said in online dating for sensitive women is that the way that I managed first dates, or any dates actually for that matter, was that I told myself, you can leave at any time. And this is true. If you're dating, know that the person's a jerk, they're inappropriate, they cross a line, even if you're just like, okay, this is really not working, you say thank you for your time and you get up and you leave. Like, it's not actually that hard when you think about it. And if you haven't really made a strong connection with someone, it does actually get easier. I'm not saying you do it all the time, and I'm not saying you be cruel about it. I'm just saying it's an option. And when you know that's an option, I think you end up, your relationships get better actually, because you're not clinging to them. You're not thinking, oh my God, I have to make this work and I can't leave and I can't change and I just got to figure out how to make the hard parts not so hard. No, you don't have to do that. Life really doesn't need that level of struggle. So I know this is getting long, guys, so I'm wrapping it up with the last lesson, which is lesson number 8. Healing and growth are not linear. This one's tricky because I think so many of us just want to be like, okay, well, if I just climb the mountain, I'm done. I just do all the steps that you told me, I'm healed, I'm fantastic, I'm evolved, I'm enlightened. And none of it works that way. It literally is not a straight path, not a linear path. It is a spiral. So it's basically like climbing a mountain, but taking the long way around. So it's a 3-dimensional spiral. So it's like this. So you're going around. And the trickiest part is, at least this is the trickiest part for me, is that, you go around the first time, the next time you face the same lessons sometimes. But the second time, it feels like it's the same thing, and you're like, why am I having to relearn this? But in this go around, you're a little bit higher, you're a little bit more evolved, you have a little bit more knowledge, you're able to approach it from a much more mature, educated perspective. The rub of this, though, is as the tiers get higher, the lessons get harder, especially if you have not learned them, especially if you have not committed to making the changes to accept them into your life. So, for example, I know that I have attracted narcissistic people into my life forever. And so I literally have an insane number of people that I've been in contact with, work, romantic, personal relationships, romantic relationships, who I know now, in retrospect, definitely had narcissistic traits, definitely were draining of me, were not healthy, were really sometimes abusive and manipulative for sure. And every time I would kind of get out of a relationship, I would find that I thought I figured it out. I thought that I had evolved and was not going to have that happen again. But what I realized was I was just seeing new narcissists in new situations with new levels of depth. Because people who are narcissistic, it's like anything in relation to a personality, they have all kinds of other traits too. And it's not necessarily black and white that, oh, that person's someone you need to avoid. It's trickier than that. So what kept happening for me was that I hadn't learned the lesson that repels narcissists, which is to love myself first. The reason why narcissists end up hovering, staying around, kind of sucking you dry is because you allow them to. I allowed them to. And so once I kind of figured out that that was my life lesson, that was one of my big lessons, is that I needed to realize that I am worthy of love, and that I get to have my own love and my own attention and my own time, and I don't have to be giving it to all these terrible people. I get to conserve it for me. When I finally got that was when I finally broke free. And right now I'm happy to say, like, I am not experiencing this anymore. I still meet narcissists, but I recognize them so fast. I know right away, and I'm able to say, yeah, no, I don't need to give you my time or attention, and I don't need to care. I don't actually care if you like me or want to work with me or anything. I like me, and that's what matters. So we talked about that as lesson 1, and it wraps right back into lesson 8. And it's so crucial. And if you are someone who's an empath or has been in any type of manipulative or difficult relationship, I hope that you can kind of see this lesson and merge it back into your life. And in terms of the spiral, it's just, we all go through it. We're all reliving things over and over and over again. And the things that we don't address are often the things that will cause us illness. It will cause us trauma, it'll cause us emotional distress. So it's really a good idea when you come around that spiral that you get ready, you get prepared, and you think about these things. about what is it that I'm meant to learn. When something terrible happens, it's great to just say, what was this teaching me? What was I meant to learn? And that's how we kind of do this spiral healing thing. That's how we get through it all. So that is it. A whopping 8 life lessons for my empath and sensitive friends, and really for everyone else. If I think that you will find that there's some truth in what I'm saying for anybody. We all have empathetic traits. We all have sensitive traits. We all struggle, I think, with self-love and self-doubt and confidence and all of these fun things. And a lot of these things, let's be honest, are part of our societal programming. Not feeling love for yourself, not feeling good enough, is actually part of being human in a marketing-driven world. I mean, think about it. If you open one magazine or flip through social media, scroll through social media, you're likely to feel less than, because there's a lot of filtered images, there's beautiful people, there's all these messages that are kind of telling you you're not good enough, you're not attractive enough, you're not thin enough, you're not a good enough cook, you're not making enough money, you're not, funny enough, whatever. There's always something that's being displayed to us. So you have to make it an inside job and realize that your worth comes from you and not all the external. And it takes a long time to do this stuff. It takes a long time to come to terms with this, by the way. So, I just told you I'm 48. It's taken me all this time to get to these lessons. So I hope that if you're watching this and you're younger, that it'll take you a lot less time. And if you're older, I hope that you're with me and that you're kind of getting on top of your life lessons too. Either way, if you're, I would love to hear what your life lessons are. If the 8 that I shared do not resonate with you, I'd love to hear what you're working on and what you think you were meant to kind of conquer in this lifetime. If you're interested, I have a whole bunch of other birthday musings. I'm going to put the links in the blog, but I will also put the links in the YouTube description as well on some of the things I shared when I was 40, 41, and 44. So otherwise, thank you for listening. This is a great birthday gift for me. I am a Leo sun, as you probably realize, since we're in August, and creativity is everything for a Leo. And so to be able to put myself out here and share my thinking and my writing and is actually a huge gift for me. So thank you. If you like this video, please like it. And if you feel like subscribing to my channel, please do that. No matter what, I hope you have good health and happiness always. Thank you.